The Conjuring is headed to television with a new series in development at HBO Max that promises to broaden the film's shared world. Nancy Wan is attached as writer, executive producer, and showrunner. According to reporting and producers Peter Safran and James Wan are shepherding the project after the series was announced in 2023. No premiere date or casting list has been confirmed, and plot details remain intentionally sparse, while creators say that they plan to continue stories from the feature films. The move reflects the franchise's appetite for longer-form storytelling and for connecting spin-offs into a single cinematic ecosystem. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Release date. Predicting when a project moves from development to premiere is always a mix of calendar math and industry guesswork. Key milestones include finishing a writer's room, locking scripts, casting leads, and securing production slots. Bigger franchises also factor in marketing windows and theatrical release schedules for related films, which can delay or accelerate a streamer rollout. Given those moving parts, an optimistic timetable for a prestige horror series that's still shaping its scripts would often place a first season roughly a year to a year and a half after development formally enters production. However, delays can stretch that out further. Trade coverage notes that the project remains early in its life cycle and will follow a deliberate build rather than a rushed timeline, which means fans should expect official scheduling updates only after pre-production begins in earnest. Plan on official debut dates, arriving alongside casting announcements and a production start notice from studio outlets, rather than from rumor mill chatter. Probable plot. A long-form take on this material lets writers play with tempo in ways a film cannot. Instead of racing toward a single set piece, a season can slow down and allow dread to accumulate across small domestic scenes, archival digs, and mounting discoveries. One strong approach would be to treat the season as a map that readers and viewers can trace. Episodes might open with an apparently ordinary domestic moment that slowly reveals a trace of the uncanny. That trace then pulls a character into research, into awkward meetings with authorities, into late-night interviews, and into encounters that test belief. Those sidesteps into paperwork and testimony can make each scare feel earned and make the final convergences feel inevitable rather than convenient. The series can also use time as a storytelling tool. Threads that leap between decades allow the show to demonstrate cause and effect, illustrating how a single object travels through hands and institutions, and how silence compounds harm. Flashbacks can be staged as recovered audio or as reconstructed scenes that the characters argue over. That technique keeps the narrative elastic. Viewers get both the intimacy of a single family's terror and the satisfying logic of a mystery that finally snaps into place when disparate fragments align. Trade reporting indicates the producers want to build on the film's connective tissue, which makes this kind of layered timeline a natural fit for the project. Procedural storytelling has obvious benefits for horror. If characters approach hauntings like cases to be solved, the show can dramatize investigative labor. That labor includes interviewing witnesses, combing through police records, tracing the provenance of objects, and negotiating with clergy and experts who don't always agree. Those disagreements create legitimate dramatic conflict and keep the horror grounded in human choices. Episodes framed around particular assignments can still feed a larger mystery by dropping hidden paperwork or a throwaway prop that later proves crucial. Early coverage of the series suggests creators are interested in balancing casework with longer arcs, which supports a mixed procedural and serialized model. The series can also explore deeper thematic questions that the films only touched upon. Television gives room to explore what surviving a haunting does to relationships, careers, and civic trust. It can show how institutions respond when their reputations are at stake, and how families cope when official channels offer no help. That focus on aftermath makes terror more than spectacle. It becomes a socially contested space where memory, accountability, and trauma are negotiated. Reviewers and franchise coverage note that a careful, character-led approach will be essential if the show wants to expand the world without exploiting real trauma. Finally, writers can treat mythology as a process rather than an answer. Instead of presenting a single master origin, the season might offer competing histories, allowing viewers to weigh the evidence. That choice keeps mystery alive and makes skepticism part of the drama. It also opens space for surprise links to established spin-offs while preserving new mysteries that can sustain future seasons. Reporting on the project shows that the team is thinking about long-term storytelling and how to use the series format to invite curiosity rather than merely to shock. In short, the strongest pattern for the show is one that allows dread to grow out of a revealed process. When the hunt for answers becomes the engine of the story, scares gain weight, and the world behind the hauntings becomes as compelling as the hauntings themselves. Characters. A television format invites a broader ensemble than a standalone movie, and that opens possibilities for recurring investigators, specialized consultants, and families who carry generational grief. The cast is likely to include at least one skeptical outsider who anchors the audience perspective, a researcher who digs into lore and archives and victims whose arcs stretch across episodes. Secondary figures such as local clergy, law enforcement, and collectors of cursed objects can become recurring players who complicate moral choices. Reported creative staffing suggests the team wants to mine both small-town intimacy and institutional rot, which means characters will be written with shades and compromises rather than clean archetypes. That approach allows the show to toggle between character-driven scares and plot-driven revelations, while giving supporting roles room to surprise and terrify over longer arcs. Fans should watch for characters who start as helpers and later reveal deeper motives, because that inversion fits the franchise's appetite for moral ambiguity. Major actors. The Conjuring films have long relied on recognizable leads who give the stories an anchor in empathy and disbelief, and the cinematic entries that Just Wrapped have reinforced that casting strategy. Recent feature installments have brought Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga back to their roles as Ed and Lorraine Warren, demonstrating the franchise's commitment to continuity and star presence. At the same time, the universe has introduced younger performers to expand its reach, and those additions hint at how a television show might blend veteran names with fresh faces. For a TV series, expect a casting mix that balances seasoned actors who can carry long arcs with character performers who can deepen episodic scare. Casting directors working on prestige horror often look for performers who can do quiet emotional and also sell sudden physical terror. The series format will reward actors who can sustain slow burns across episodes and who can make small domestic scenes feel charged with dread. If the show follows franchise patterns, it'll also leave room for surprise guest turns from the wider Conjuring universe, which help knit a series into larger mythology. Director. Horror franchises move between auteurs and reliable genre artisans, and recent entries in this universe show both strategies in play. The latest Conjuring film was directed by Michael Chavez, who has steered previous franchise offshoots and brought a steady hand to big set pieces and intimate exorcism scenes. That kind of directorial experience matters because a series will need directors who can handle both slow atmospheric buildup and tighter episode-length climaxes. In television, it's common to mix directors across a season so that an individual episode gets a distinct tone, while the showrunner keeps the overall through line coherent. Producers may therefore pair a rotating slate of film and TV directors, including some who've worked in prestige television and others with pedigrees in horror movies. That blend helps maintain visual variety while preserving narrative unity. The show will likely hire directors who are comfortable with practical effects and working on tight schedules, because long-form horror depends on a practical atmosphere as much as it does on jump scares and CGI. Trailers for recent Conjuring films have leaned into ritual, dread, and a sense that the stakes are final, and the marketing for theatrical releases gives a clear template for how a TV series might be introduced. The final film's teasers highlight intimate family terror, exorcism sequences, and callbacks to established icons, which shows how trailers can promise both spectacle and emotional payoff. For a television rollout, the studio will likely offer a measured campaign that starts with a character-driven teaser and then expands into longer clips that reveal methods, lore, and a season-long mystery. Streaming series teasers often aim to establish mood more than plot at first, because the show needs to sell atmosphere to binge viewers. Expect the first official trailer to arrive alongside casting news or a production start announcement, and then to be followed by focused clips that tease specific episodes and recurring objects of dread. When the franchise features cross-media moments, trailers also serve a connective function by dropping brief cameo shots that prompt fans to search for links. The approach will be patient, cinematic, and designed to get horror fans talking. Delays. Industry forces, more than creative hesitation, often shape when a series actually arrives on screen. Large guild actions over the past few years paused writing and pushed many productions back, which means projects that were only in early development could lose months while strike activity is resolved. Even after writers and actors return to work, scheduling bottlenecks for sound stages, crew availability, and visual effects vendors can lengthen the timeline. Corporate priorities matter as well. Streamers rebalance their slates as executives rethink branding and size their marquee shows, which can nudge smaller or riskier projects down the list until a clear marketing window opens. Finally, studios sometimes coordinate a TV spin with related theatrical releases or franchise moves, which can either accelerate a greenlight or delay it, so the rollout does not compete with a blockbuster. Together, these moving parts explain why a confirmed series can still feel quiet for months while the gears are being reset. Theories. Fans and pundits tend to imagine a few clear directions for a franchise show. Those ideas cluster into patterns that feel inevitable. One popular idea is that the series will use a case file format, where each episode examines a distinct haunting and then drops hints that connect those episodes into a larger mystery. Another line of speculation proposes a decade-hopping approach that traces cursed objects across time, allowing viewers to see how one evil influences people and institutions over the course of several decades. A third theory suggests that the show will delve into the subculture surrounding occult collectors and museums, turning background artifacts into catalysts for episodes. Online forums are already reading the last film for cameo breadcrumbs and mapping potential crossovers with spin-off characters. Whatever shape the writers pick, fans expect a show that rewards close attention, and that will plant deliberate clues for later seasons. Controversies and rumors. Any adaptation of material tied to real people invites scrutiny, and a few persistent disputes have followed this franchise. Skeptical researchers and journalists have long questioned aspects of the Warrens files. In some cases have been publicly challenged by investigators who say the record was inflated. That debate does not disappear when a story becomes a TV show. There are also recurring rumor threads about casting, guest appearance, and whether certain origins will be retconned for dramatic purposes. Industry insiders sometimes leak development gossip online, and forums amplify those fragments into confident claims long before studios confirm anything. Finally, the franchise's history of turning contested reports into spectacle prompts ethical questions about dramatizing trauma, and critics will likely press the show to handle real-world sources with care rather than using them solely for shock. Those tensions suggest the series will enter into a conversation that is already complicated and occasionally combustible. Marvelous verdict. The Conjuring moving to television is a high-risk, high-reward idea. Long-form storytelling can let dread deepen slowly and give characters room to live between scares, which suits the franchise's interest in legacy and ritual. At the same time, the format raises ethical obligations because adapting material tied to real people requires care and sensitivity. Done well, the series could expand the mythology with patient, character-driven terror. Done poorly, it might rely on spectacle and retcon, which can alienate viewers and invite criticism. The outcome depends on tone, restraint, and the writer's willingness to respect sources carefully. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.